Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my parents and sister after they cut me off? I had an affair with her husband. I had an affair with my sister's husband when I was 16. Yes, I regret it, and I truly am disgusted with my past self. When they found out, my sister publicly shamed me, fair enough, and told my parents, also fair. She chose to stay with her husband and blamed me for seducing him into being unfaithful. She forgave him and decided to reconcile, while I was left to face the consequences. My parents kicked me out, and I had to scramble to find somewhere to live. Every time I found a new job, my parents and sister would contact my co-workers to call me a homewrecker. They would harass me wherever I went, gossiping about my status. While no one treated me differently to my face, the stares and whispers were unbearable. I had to leave the city and move to another just to escape them, and for the sake of my mental health. Some people might say I'm overreacting, but they really followed me like the plague. I moved and met a nice elderly couple who never had kids, Mark and Helen. By that, I mean they offered me a place to stay if I needed it and were incredibly kind to me. I had my own place, but I often visited them. To this day, they mean the world to me. They knew what had happened, and I once even joked and said something along the lines of, "Aren't you afraid I'll steal your husband as a homewrecker?" Helen told me that being a homewrecker wasn't my entire personality, and to move on and learn from what I did. I eventually met my now husband, and we have 4 children, all adults now except for one who is 17. My kids know about my parents and the past situation, and they grew up considering Mark and Helen their grandparents, alongside my in-laws. Then, last Saturday, I received a message. I hope you can find it in your heart to read this message. I know we've been through so much pain and hardship, and I want to be honest with you about everything. I deeply regret how things have unfolded between us, especially the hurtful things we said and did in the past, and I am truly sorry for all the pain we caused you. Our actions have had lasting consequences. We never got to know our grandchildren, and I realize now how much we missed out on. Your sister's husband cheated again and left her for someone else. I see how much she's been suffering. She's now a woman left alone with 2 kids. One is disabled, and the other is autistic and struggling too. She's been so strong, but it's not enough. We are in a difficult situation ourselves, struggling financially. We don't have enough space or resources to help her directly, but we deeply want to support her and her children. I'm asking for your forgiveness. I know your father and I don't deserve it, but I hope you can see that we are trying to make amends, even if it's late. If there's any way you can help us with financial support or guidance to assist your sister and her children, it would mean the world to us. We want to do right by them, and by you, if you're willing to give us that chance. We love you. When I got that message, I was pretty angry. I haven't seen my parents in decades, and I'm not willing to see them or even consider helping my sister with her kids. I haven't responded yet, but my husband is willing to send her a very harsh letter on my behalf. We're considering just ignoring them, but would I be the a-hole if I let my husband write a harsh reply? Edit. He and my sister were 21, and I was 16. I got to live with my grandparents after they kicked me out. I'm also 43 now, if that wasn't clear. My oldest child is 23, so no, they are not little kids anymore. Now for the top comments. Your family thought you were the one at fault for the affair you had with your sister's husband. He seduced a child. It was all on him. I wouldn't even bother contacting them to tell them to go to hell. By all means, let your husband write a letter, but don't send it. It will just open the door for further hurt for you. A life well lived is your best way forward, with a wonderful Mark and Helen in your corner. Thank you. I honestly feel bad for what happened, and my sister deserved better than me. I take full blame for the affair, and my parents standing by them was a good thing. It showed that they supported their relationship and stood by them. That's good. He has now left her, so I'm not sure if it was worth it in the end, but they are not entitled to my money. In another message, they even suggested that they move in with me. How did they get your number? As tempting as it must be to send a scathing letter, I would suggest blocking and ignoring them. I'm guessing my grandma told them. My grandpa is dead, but I still have very low contact with my grandma. OP, I'm tacking onto one of the top comments in hopes you'll see this. You keep saying you don't blame your parents, but put yourself in their shoes. If a 21-year-old adult slept with your 16-year-old son or daughter, how would you feel? They chose a predator over you. Do not forgive them or give them a dime. Protect your peace. Cut them all off for good, not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying no to babysitting my ex's child with his wife when she asked? I, 30 female, have 2 children, 11 and 8, with my ex. He's now married and has a 3-year-old, maybe a 2-year-old. I forget the age of his 3rd child, but he has a child with his wife. For the last 2.5 years, I've had custody of our kids. This came after a lot of messed up behavior toward them, including telling our kids I had died, and even recording them sobbing. Leaving them with a friend of his who was high and had drugs all around, and trying to force food into our younger child's mouth. He has no visitation with our kids. There have been 5 court appearances since he lost custody, and we had to meet with a child advocate 3 times since I was awarded sole custody. His wife is not someone I know. In the 6 years they were together, we spoke twice. The first time was before he lost custody, and she accused me of trying to ruin their wedding by making him work excessively long hours to pay an unreasonable amount of child support when they were trying to get married. The second time was after one of our meetings with a child advocate, and she blamed me for him not being much of a husband to her or a father to their kid because he was trying so hard to get his custody time back. She didn't outright say he was a lazy father, but I would guess it's more that than him doing what he can to get visitation with our kids, at least. So I never expected to hear from this woman. But last Tuesday actually, I was home because my kids had no school, and she called me at 8:30 saying she was going for a small procedure and needed someone to watch her child until 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. She told me she had nobody else and said it would be good for the kids to have some kind of contact. I told her no and ended the call. She called me back, but I didn't answer. Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I received several texts from her asking what kind of mom I am and telling me I should be ashamed of myself for not helping in an emergency and denying the kids a chance to see each other. I don't feel bad about it, but I know this child is a half-sibling to my children, so I acknowledge there might be some wrong on my part for not helping. Maybe. Am I the a-hole? She might be trying to set you up. You'll watch their child, and then they will accuse you of mistreating the child or something similar. Do not ever watch their child. I was going to say, be the bigger person and watch the kid for a few hours and let your kids hang out with their sibling. But you are correct. There is too much liability here. Unless she has a great set of cameras recording everything in and out of her home, don't entertain the idea. And even then, assume those cameras are going to be used against you in a future custody battle. Why do I have the feeling that she'll drop the child off and never come back? I was more worried she'd make this a constant thing in the name of the kids seeing each other. I had to go back and read, where is her husband? Why can't he watch the child? I don't know, unwilling to take care of their child from the sounds of it. Not the a-hole, but why is she not blocked? Before this, I didn't have her number, but I think I've been a little too WTF to think of blocking, although muting and keeping it, in case of more custody battles, might be a better move. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not defending my parents or my brother when my parents were accused of favoritism and my brother was accused of being an attention hog? My parents have always favored my brother, 17 male, over me, 15 male. There are so many examples I could give, but I'll just list a few ways because the point of the post is that someone else has called them on it. My parents talk about my brother more. They invest more time in supporting his interests. They put more money into raising him, and they have way more photos of him than me. My brother's bad about it, because anytime I get any attention, he'll bring up something he did to get the attention back on him, or he'll do something in front of everyone to get people's attention. He does it every single freaking time. He even does this nonsense in school. He said some random stuff before just to get attention off me and onto him. Our extended family will typically let him hog the attention when he starts. So this past Saturday, my parents had their families over for a party to welcome my dad's youngest brother home. He went all over the world for the last 10 years. He was talking to me, and my brother interrupted with stuff about himself. My uncle tried to bring it back to me, but my brother kept interrupting. Eventually, my uncle took me to grab some ice cream for everyone since my parents forgot, and we talked on the car ride and in the store. When we got back, my brother went through all his football achievements. When my uncle was talking to my parents, he asked about us both, but they only answered about my brother and ignored him when he asked about me. Eventually, he cracked a joke that it must be strange to have some random kid living with them, and that made them defensive. They asked what it was supposed to mean. He said they act like my brother is their only child and I'm just other. He mentioned the house only showing one kid, the fact that they had nothing to say about me, and that they ignored any questions he asked about me. My brother told our uncle that there's just more interesting and worthwhile stuff to say about him, and then he repeated stuff he'd told him earlier when my uncle and I were talking. That's when my uncle called him an attention hog. Things were getting more and more awkward, but I loved it. I loved hearing someone finally call them out on it. My parents tried to defend the three of them, but my uncle was brushing it off. My parents tried to make me defend the three of them, but I ignored them. Nobody else said anything, and my uncle gave me his number before he left, and we've texted a bit since. My parents were so mad at me for not defending them and my brother. They keep telling me I owe them an apology and that I need to do better. I told them it should be them doing better, and they told me no, I should defend my family against unfair accusations. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If the truth hurts, do better. They don't think it's true, so they act like they're being attacked. As for his brother, wow, look at me, I'm so interesting. I had to look up his age again. What a baby. Not the a-hole. I know a couple who did the same with their two kids. Constantly talked about the older one and said the bare minimum about the younger one. I took to deliberately starting off asking how their kids were doing by specifically inquiring about the younger one. They ignored that and started on about the older one, never even circling back to say anything about the younger one. Very clear favoritism. Sorry you're experiencing it as well, but glad your uncle knows the score and will have your back. That always happens when they get asked about us. The thing that always confused me was they don't even try to hide it around others. I guess it helped that nobody ever called them out for it before. Not the a-hole. They will probably wonder why you stop talking to them as soon as you can. Sorry your parents are a-holes. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband I'll divorce him after finding croutons in our baby's formula? This morning, I, 31 female, woke up to find my husband, 43 male, not in our bed. I figured he fell asleep on the couch like he often does after drinking. I was slightly annoyed because he's responsible for bringing the baby monitor into our room with him since he stays up much later than me. Since he didn't come into our room, the baby monitor never did either, and our 9-month-old is getting over an ear infection and has been waking up crying once a night. I can't hear this without the monitor as both doors are shut, and I have a fan running. As I was making the baby's bottle this morning, I opened the pantry to find a bag of croutons I made inside the formula container, with a few croutons loose in the formula and the top to the formula missing. I became instantly furious. For context, before we had our kids, a toddler and the infant, my husband said he'd stop drinking once we had children. When I was pregnant with our first, I'd wake up to a loud noise and walk out to find my husband passed out on the floor. Being so intoxicated, he fell asleep sitting up on a chair and then fell to the floor, and still didn't wake up. This happened at least 3 times. Since then, I've found him passed out on the couch several times, and passed out on the toilet a handful of times. On New Year's Day, we had a serious talk about him needing to slow down or stop drinking, as I was at my wit's end. I told him if we had to have this conversation again, it would be a much different talk. Since then, I found him on the toilet at least once, and just 6 weeks ago, I woke up one morning thinking a homeless person had rummaged through our cupboards. There was lettuce all over the kitchen. A cereal bag looked like someone had chewed through it to open it, then poured a bowl onto the floor, and I found my raincoat soaking up a random mess in the entryway. I'm not joking when I say I checked the security cameras thinking someone had broken in and had a feast while we slept. He tried to blame it on the 2-year-old, but the folded-up cereal box was a dead giveaway. So that brings me to today. He told me he had 2 drinks and didn't know how he ended up in the guest bedroom, or why. He thought it was our bed, but the guest bed didn't even have any sheets or pillowcases on it. Then finding the croutons was really just the tipping point. I confronted him and told him what I found and that there's no way he only had 2 drinks and ended up doing this. He's 6'4", 265 pounds. He swears that's all he had, and I told him if he doesn't stop drinking, I'm filing for divorce. He went to work, and we finally just talked after the kids went to bed. He said I'm overreacting, that he doesn't have a problem, and that it's not fair to give him that ultimatum. I told him it's my life too, and I don't have to stay in a marriage where I don't like the level of drinking, especially with 2 young boys. I agree I could have waited until tonight to have a better talk, but I think he needs to know how serious I am in order for him to make a change. Otherwise, I'm keeping my word and will file. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Boundaries only work if they're enforced. When are you going to put actions to your words? 1. He said he would stop drinking when you got pregnant. He didn't. 2. You asked him to stop drinking because you were at your wit's end. He didn't. 3. You told him if you had to have the talk again, it would be a more serious talk. But then you find him 2 more times drunk. Now he's lying about his drinking and trying to blame your children for his behavior. So, when are you going to enforce the boundary you set? You're not following through, so he has no reason to change. He's an alcoholic, and he's not at a place where he can admit that. He's lying about his drunk behavior, lying about how much he drinks, and now he's downplaying a very serious situation to gaslight you into believing he's fine and make you feel guilty for pointing out his drinking problem. He does have a problem. People only drink regularly until they pass out like that if they're an alcoholic. He cannot admit he has a problem because then he'd feel obligated to do something about it. You cannot change him or force him to change himself because then he'll just try to hide it from you. Ask yourself, do you love him and want him in your life and your children's lives as the person he is right now? Or do you feel like his behavior makes you and your kids unsafe in your own home? If you can't accept his alcoholism, then you should leave, for the sake of your and your kids' mental health and well-being. Being raised by an alcoholic is traumatizing and takes a long-term toll on both the children and the partner who puts up with it. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. It never works out. Source: a person raised by an alcoholic parent. OP: wait till your toddler tells a teacher or another adult that their daddy is passed out, drunk a lot, that he was naked, vomiting, etc. Kids say things as they are. They don't filter the truth because this is the life that they are living. You might find your home deemed not safe for kids. This option may be taken out of your hands, OP. I hope for the sake of the kids that you put them first and not your partner. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my parents with their mortgage, forcing them to lose their home, even though I can easily pay it off? I'm 23 female, my parents are 45 female and 46 male. I have 2 brothers, 24 and 21, and a little sister 8. We grew up upper middle class. As children, my parents would buy my 2 brothers whatever they requested, regardless of how expensive it was, allowed them to go on trips with them and threw them over-the-top birthday parties which I didn't receive any. For example, my brothers got to go to Disney for their birthdays while I stayed with my grandparents. Fortunately, my aunt/grandma took me to Disney a few months later. After being called out, they said they couldn't afford a trip for 5. As we got a little older, my parents had us working in their business after school and weekends. They gave both my brothers allowances for helping out while I didn't receive anything, though I was expected to do more. I wish it was just financial abuse though. My parents always said very hurtful things. They'd also make horrible comments when I entered the room, and I honestly still don't know what I did wrong. When my older brother graduated high school, they gave him an all-inclusive trip around Europe for the summer. When I graduated the next year, I didn't even get a party from them. I think the worst of it being they paid for both my brother's higher education, but told me to figure it out because they can't afford to pay for 3 college degrees. At 18, I moved in with my grandparents full-time and decided not to go to college because I didn't want to get into debt or put that burden on my grandparents, who offered to pay for some. I did, however, take them up on their offer to financially support me until I had a job. My grandma gifted me about $5,000 after moving in with her to help me start an online business I told her about. Long story short, my online shop blew up and made well over 6 figures my first year. Within 5 years, 2 online shops and a lot of investing in real estate and stocks, I now make way more money than my parents ever made combined. During the pandemic, my parents had to shut down their restaurant and are still struggling to make ends meet. They are also unable to pay for their mortgage and are afraid they'll go homeless if I don't support them. They also have a lot of medical bills after my father got into an accident and needed surgery for his knee. I, being so grateful for everything my grandparents and aunts have done for me, decided to get my grandparents their dream home and paid off my aunt's debts for medical school. After realizing I can also easily afford to pay off their debts/mortgage, my parents have been begging me, literally in tears, to save their home, but I refused. They told me I'm an a-hole and said I deserved my upbringing but that I shouldn't be punishing my siblings and forcing them out their homes for the actions of my parents. I'm not punishing my siblings though. I'll be more than happy to support them, especially my baby sister if she comes and stays with me or my grandparents. Am I the a-hole for watching them become homeless? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. As soon as you refused, the mask slipped. They told you that you deserved their mistreatment. It's very telling that they are aware they mistreated her. They acknowledged they were terrible parents to her by saying that. And yet, they still expect her to financially support them. They have some nerve. She owes them nothing and I'd be sure to tell them so. Not the a-hole. You reap what you sow. Where are the 2 brothers they gave so much to help them out? My younger brother, 21, is still in school and my older brother has a great tech job but has a family of his own and isn't able to support them much. Not the a-hole. But what do your grandparents think? Does it pain them to see their children like this? However, forgetting your parents for a minute, your siblings may resent you for life, even your baby sister, for breaking up the family. You say baby sister can come stay with you away from her parents? I'd think long and hard about this. Maybe there is something you could do that meets in the middle, like a deferred loan in writing or something, just enough to not lose the house. This way is just a small favor. My maternal grandparents, the ones who took care of me growing up, are on my side and don't think it's right for my parents to ask me for anything. They obviously feel bad for their daughter's situation, but don't think it's my responsibility, especially when they've called her out multiple times and she didn't change. Also, they aren't really a fan of my father. As for my siblings, they're fully aware of my treatment and wish they did something growing up but couldn't. They don't blame me for not wanting to help. We have a great relationship and I plan to support my younger siblings, 21 and 8. My little sister doesn't know anything about this and hopefully is kept that way until she gets older. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister throw a party and pay for a gift for our parents' 30th wedding anniversary? My sister, 29 female, is our parents' favorite. They have tried to hide it over the years, but for almost all of my 26 female life, it has been made perfectly clear that my parents care more about my sister. They know her favorite food, favorite color, favorite band, and generally things you're supposed to know about the people you are very close to/family. But they have always tended to forget mine and just give me my sister's favorite things. Other family members have pointed it out to them. My grandpa, who was the best to me growing up, called them out in front of everyone on more than one occasion for it. Like when I was 8, they had a birthday dinner with my sister's favorite dinner instead of mine. Grandpa was like, "What the heck is this? Why did you make sister's favorite instead of Opie's?" My parents were all flustered and said it was just a silly mix-up. I'd say of the 16 birthday dinners I had with them, 15 of them were my sister's favorites and not mine. While the 16th one was only right because Grandpa forced his way into the kitchen to help that year. I was always a gamer and a reader. My sister loved makeup and dolls. So my birthday/Christmas gifts were often makeup and dolls. When people used to ask them what I wanted to be, they'd say what my sister wanted to be. I have brought up to them on multiple occasions that it hurts my feelings, but they never change. So I started to become more distant from my parents and don't make the effort I used to. My sister has acknowledged that she's aware of this stuff, but she still wanted me to help her throw a party for their anniversary and to go half with her on this really expensive gift she wants to get them. She told me about it over Christmas. The anniversary is in April. She wanted to go all out, but I told her I'm not doing anything that big to celebrate them and will not be putting all that effort in when they never make it with me. She told me that this would be helping her too. I told her she wants me to help her celebrate the people who show clear favoritism between their kids, but she doesn't see the big deal. We argued. She told me I was being childish and that I'm unfair to her/them. She told me if I don't help with the party and a gift, I am publicly shaming our parents and leaving it all on her shoulders. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Give them makeup and dolls. No, get them grandpa's favorite. OP, not the a-hole. Just forget about them and live your best life. Celebrate your grandpa though. He's the real one. Not the a-hole. Favoritism or not, you don't have an obligation to pay expensive gifts to your parents nor to throw big parties. It is nice if you can afford it and if you have a good relationship with them, but not given. Your sister calling you unfair when it was your parents showing clear favoritism is laughable. Did your sister ever stand up for you? Not that it was her role, but it would have been nice. Her behavior in this situation is really selfish. It's about what she wants and what your parents want, disregarding what you want once again. She didn't. Other family members did, but she'd say nice things to me after it happened. That was about it. So it's not really standing up. More like a pat in the back, but she didn't do anything to make an unfair situation right. Definitely not a-hole OP. Blaming the person who suffered from discrimination is not okay. What your parents did was not okay, and what your sister said to you is not okay. None of their bad behavior is your fault. Not the a-hole, and I'm surprised you're still keeping in touch with them. You aren't obliged to give your parents anything just because they made you. I hope you are surrounded by better people now. I have considered not being in contact with them anymore. Never took that step, but it has totally crossed my mind. I went low contact with my toxic family, and I couldn't be happier with my life. If you think it's something that will make you feel better and safer, then give it some more thought. Good luck. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for the repairs for a car I gave to my nephew for free after buying myself a new one? Back in October, I decided to buy myself a new car, which is a used 2020 Jeep Compass. First vehicle I've gotten myself in over a decade. My nephew began college over the summer but had no car for transportation, and I was only going to get between $500 to $1,000 for it for trade-in or sale anyways. So, I decided to be a cool uncle and give it to him for free as his first vehicle. It was a 2008 Dodge and in pretty good shape. Drove well but had some problems such as oil pan leaking and some other minor work. So I brought it up with my brother, nephew's father, that I wanted to give my nephew my old car as a gift for free. I wasn't asking any money from them, but made it clear that they would have to pay for anything pertaining to the transfer to them and update the inspection or anything else that needed to be done. I also let them know of any problems with it that I knew of. When asked why I was getting a new car, I told them I had thought it was time, and I had a job and budget to get one. I had been thinking about it for a few years and finally decided I should just do it. They agreed and they took it to a mechanic they trusted and had to do about $540 worth of work on it, for brakes, inspection, oil pan, and some other minor work. He said not to worry about a bill, that he'd work it up later. My nephew was excited when we gave it to him when he was visiting on the weekend, so now he doesn't have to bum rides or take a bus. Well, a couple months go by and the mechanic finally gets around to making out the repair bill. That, like I said, came out to be about $540. Well, my brother now wants me to pay the bill and says I should have paid for all the work before I even gave it to my nephew. My response was, I told you what condition I knew of about a car, and that any repairs or transfer payments would be their responsibility. Now they are acting like I've cheated them somehow, when all I can think is that I gave them a car at no additional cost other than repairs, and somehow I'm the a-hole? What do you guys think? Should I have paid or chipped in for the repairs or what? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You told them what the deal was. They accepted it. Now they want to change the rules. If they mention it again, politely tell them that if the repairs are too much, you'll gladly take the vehicle back. But those are the options. Either shut up and pay the bill or give it back. No good deeds goes unpunished. OP, tell them you want the car back. Then you'll sell it and make money off of it, since you don't want to burden them with a free car. Not the a-hole. I did something similar with a friend's son. I asked him for $1,000 for the car that he could pay over 10 months. He paid me $300 over 3 months. Complained about the work it needed, which I told him about, and his dad also looked at it with him. Tuned it out like teenage boys who think they're real mechanics do. And it broke down beyond repair 6 months into him owning it. He never paid me the other $700. His mom wouldn't hold him accountable, so I took the L and made a mental note that we'll just never do him a favor again. When I was younger, my father was going to buy a new car and trade in the old one. My neighbor heard about it and asked my dad if he could buy it. My dad reluctantly agreed because he believed mixing money and friendship was dangerous. Sure enough, after a month or so, the car died. My neighbor informed my dad about it and made him feel bad, so my dad paid him back all of the money. A few years later, my parents wanted to sell the house and move away. They told a real estate agent not to put up signs but to sell it quietly. When our neighbors discovered they had sold the house, they were upset because my parents hadn't told them, because they wanted to buy it for their son. My father was wise in his decision not to involve family and friends in money transactions. I've learned a valuable lesson. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not asking my ex when I am moving abroad? Me and my ex-wife divorced when our daughter was 3 and she's 15 now. I'm gonna be fair. Ex has a lot of issues, to the level that every member of her family, her mom, dad, siblings, cousins, uncles, aunts, etc., gave testimonies against her at the case custody. As a result, I was given sole legal and medical custody after the divorce. She was bound to child support. That was automatically cut from her salary that was also decided by the judge because she was found untrustworthy to handle this. The house we lived in was her father's, and he made her move out to a smaller flat of his and he transferred the deed to mine in my daughter's name. She's also not allowed to have anything but supervised visits, but she didn't visit since she is 5 years old, so I mostly raised her by myself, with the help of our extended families. 2 months ago, I got a job offer from a university in Uruguay to be a visiting professor for 3 years. After I talked with my daughter, we thought it was a good idea, and she said she wanted to see and experience South America. There, I also don't have a rigid schedule so we can tour around South America in these 3 years. I also never went to South America other than Rio in late 1990s for Rio Carnival, so it will be a new experience for me too. And at the 27th of December, we moved to Uruguay. Her family was supportive and told us to enjoy this experience. But the problem is my ex. She called me and yelled at me for 30 minutes. Then my daughter took the phone from me and closed it to her face after saying, "Why do you care when you weren't there?" The thing is, my ex doesn't have any power over me and my daughter, so we can do anything we want. She also doesn't own the house she's living right now, and father-in-law can kick her out if he thinks she is out of line. So I might be abusing the power I have. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. To your point, she hasn't cared for the past 10 years, so I think it's just the jealousy coming out in her. As long as you're legally able to move your daughter out of the country, go for it. Enjoy your life and don't look back. This indeed. Opie, don't even bother to let her father kick her out. Put your energy elsewhere. Just ignore her calls and go have fun with your daughter. If her father is annoyed with her, he can handle her himself. And I hope your daughter will have a blast. Not the a-hole for me, I reckon. I'm a little confused as to what the problem is that you describe at the end. It looks like you and your child are perfectly fine to move away to Uruguay. The anger that your ex-partner has seems likely to be driven by their own shame, rather than anything based on the situation. If they had a good relationship with their child and exercised the visitation rights, then it would surely be a difficult situation to manage. But that's clearly not the case here. I think their living situation shouldn't really be any concern when you and your child make this decision. It's really up to the father-in-law whether they boot them out. I think you don't have to feel guilty or responsible if their own actions cause them negative consequences. Father-in-law can kick her out if he ever thinks her daughter is disturbing her granddaughter. There are details that I couldn't write here, but if my ex goes to their parents' house, one of her sisters does a complete body search on her, in case she is hiding something dangerous or could be used as a weapon. Not the a-hole, but maybe cover your bases by talking with your lawyer. I am legally safe. I was even offered to terminate her parenting rights during the divorce process, but I didn't want it. I was still holding out hope for her, but maybe I should have done that. Am I the a-hole for wanting to move away and not looking after my parents? I, 27 female, have 2 older siblings, 41 female and 39 male, who have taken advantage of my parents' kindness for years. My parents have tried to help set my siblings up because they were high school dropouts and didn't know what they wanted to do in life. They opened up restaurants and bailed them out of debt, only to get into bigger crap later on. My sister has finally grown up and has a good business now, but she spends too much. She even tried to borrow $50,000, but I knew she won't pay me back, so I said no.
She then tried to make me feel bad by saying I was a horrible sister. My brother is still an idiot and has racked up $500,000 of debt, and sends his letters to my parents' house thinking they'd bail him out again. Sadly, my parents are in no condition to work anymore due to injuries. I didn't dare ask for financial help from my parents because they were severely stressed for my siblings, so I went on benefits when I went to university. Every time I saved up a few thousand, a debt collector would come knocking because my brother was severely late on payments. So every time the debt collectors came, I paid what I had saved over and over again while I was studying because I felt sorry for my parents. When I graduated, I had to move for work and came up with an agreement with my parents where I paid in advance for their mortgage and they pay me back in a lump sum, almost $30,000, when I came back. 18 months later, I came back and they did not keep their end of the agreement. They tried to justify their actions by saying that they were leaving their life insurance and house, with a large mortgage, to me when they die. I was depressed for a long time because that money was to help with living expenses when I go back to study. Fast forward now, my parents told me they will be canceling their life insurance as they can no longer afford it. I said that's fine, but then asked them, which one of your 3 kids has cost you the most grief financially? To which my mom answered, your brother. So I said to get him to look after you, and that it's their fault for investing the wrong child. Now they are mad at me, saying that it was a waste raising me because I'm not a dutiful daughter. To which I retaliated by saying that they stole the money that was meant for studying from me. My mom tried to downplay this and said it's in the past and that I should let it go. I'm planning to move away, even to a different country, and to go low contact. Despite this, I'm even willing to send a small amount of money to them once in a while, which they probably won't even appreciate because they are not grand gestures like my sisters. So am I the a-hole? Edit 1. From the 30,000 incident, I stopped financially helping my family, which was about 7 years ago. As for the debt collector's part, it happened when I was a naive and very sheltered teenager. My brother pressured my mom to take some of the loans out in her name. I helped out because my parents are both depressed, and my mom wanted to end herself. Also because I was scared that it could escalate to us losing our home. Edit 2. I am financially and mentally okay. I just wanted to know if I am the a-hole for moving out and not wanting to look after my parents in their old age, which will be end of this year when I buy a house. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Oh gosh. First of all, stop paying for your brother's debt. That can get you into more trouble. And second, go no contact or low contact with your family because they are no good for you. Sorry, I forgot to mention, but I stopped about 7 years ago. And I will go low contact when I moved out end of this year when I buy a house. Your family doesn't seem to care a lot about you. Protect yourself and don't put yourself on fire to keep them warm. I know, I feel they only care if I give them very expensive stuff. I bought my mom an Arden handbag for her birthday, but she didn't even use it once, but will use the Louis Vuitton handbag my sister got her, even though it's fugly. I took back the Arden handbag and will be using it for myself because it actually looks sexy. Not today, Hall. Stop paying them money? Stop entirely. That's a horrible idea. They're using you and they will continue to use you just like your brother has. Sorry, forgot to mention I stopped financially helping about 7 years ago. But you said you may continue to send them some money after you move. Don't do that. Please don't do that. After reading all these supportive comments, I've decided not to. If they are starving, I'll just get food delivered to them, I guess. Maybe. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not taking sister-in-law's kids on vacation with us? My husband's sister has 2 kids, 10 and 12. We don't see them often because they live a few states away and their father has primary custody. My sister-in-law has a habit of imposing on us. She'll call us while she's driving to our house and tell us she'll be staying a week or 2. So it wasn't a huge surprise when she called my husband a couple days ago to say she was sending the kids to our house for 3 weeks, once school lets out. Apparently there's some drama at their dad's house, so he doesn't want them exposed to it. But she rents a room so the kids can't stay the night more than 1 to 2 nights a week. The only problem is that one of the weeks she plans on sending them to us will be on vacation at Universal. She said, great. They've never been. They'll have so much fun. My husband explained that isn't an invitation. He's letting her know she needs to choose different weeks. She asked why the kids can't just go with us, and we explained we're driving, so there's no room, and our Airbnb has just enough beds for our family. She offered to drive them down herself and have them sleep on a couch. We said that could work, and told her the cost of the tickets we bought were $380 each, so if she sends us the money, we would buy another too. She asked why she would send us the money, and we explained these are her kids. She would need to pay for them to go. She said that was ridiculous. If we have the money for this trip, then we're obviously well off and can afford to pay for her kids too. We told her we saved for years for this trip. We have a strict budget and we cannot afford an extra $800. As it is, we'd have to figure out how to add more to our budget for extra food, which we didn't ask her to pay for. She called us selfish and said we'd get to explain to her kids why they didn't get to go to Universal and their cousins did. My husband hung up on her, and shortly after got a call from his brother saying pretty much the same. He said $800 won't break us, but their sister would never be able to save that much. He's not entirely wrong, we could put it on a credit card. But the whole reason it took so long to take this trip is because we are paying exclusively in cash. We just got out of credit card debt a couple years ago and don't want to go backwards for something that isn't an emergency. We've given both his siblings money before for things like rent and car repairs, but this is different. Are we the a-holes? Huge not the a-hole. She sounds so entitled. $800 is a lot of money to ask for on a whim. Seriously, that's my mortgage payment for the month. And his brother also needs to butt out of it unless he's going to pony up that change. Don't you love the way Opie's sister-in-law and brother-in-law seem to think that Opie and her husband have an extra $800 in their back pockets? But the concept of saving for what you want is completely foreign to them. Leeches. Sometimes the posts on this sub astound me. Not the a-hole. You aren't obligated to take your sister-in-law's children on your family vacation, and you certainly aren't obligated to pay for it. Would it have been nice if everything worked out that way? Sure. Sounds like those kids have it rough. Does it in any way mean you should pay $800 and overburden your family? Of course not. Sister-in-law needs a talking to about boundaries and what your family can and cannot take on. Blood ties aren't an excuse to take advantage of someone. Not the a-hole. Just refuse to watch those kids at all. It sucks their mom has no concept of notice, money, or how entitled she's being, but don't enable her at all. Flat out refuse. Call the police if she drops kids off after you refuse to watch them. If the kids are in an uncomfortable environment and we can keep them away from that for a few weeks, we're 100% happy to do that. But we just need them to come a little later. None of this is the kids' fault, so we don't want to punish them. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for leaving my friend and his 2 kids in another state? So my buddy's wife ran out on him and he was pretty distressed by it, saying he didn't know what to do. He wasn't sure how he was going to raise these kids by himself. I felt bad, so I told him I would move across the country to help him out and help raise the kids. My one stipulation was, if you start dating someone and move them in within the first month of me being there, I would leave the next day. He was buying a new house. I was just helping him raise his kids while he got on his feet, and then after a couple years, I was going to move out. Fast forward to us both moving in, and he's been talking to this girl on Tinder for about a month. The first day we move in, he brings her over. I had certain areas of the house I had made arrangements in, organized things the way I wanted, and when he introduced her to me, he said these are his areas, don't mess with anything here. As soon as I was out of earshot, she started telling him how she wanted to reorganize those areas. After about a week of her being there, I talked to him and asked, did you just decide to move her in here or does she have her own place to go to? And he said she was going back home that night. And she did. For one night. I was paying about half the cost of the house, but he kept pushing my stuff further and further into my room. Furniture that I had brought. Different ornaments. Until finally everything I owned was pretty much in this tiny room while his girlfriend brought all of her stuff over. I told him this isn't what I agreed on, and if she was going to be living here all the time, I was leaving because I don't feel like being a part of Full House. He told me I wasn't in a place financially to move out anyways, and I should just get with the program. Well, he was partially right. I didn't have the money to leave, but I did have the credit score to get a loan. When he and the girlfriend took the kids one weekend, I rented a U-Haul and moved all of my stuff out. By the time he came back, I was gone. He texted me saying how I screwed him and the kids over. How was he supposed to pay for everything without me there? I told him to figure it out with his girlfriend since she's the one that's helped him so much. Edit. The reason I told him if he moved someone in I would leave isn't because I thought he would. It's because my last roommate did the same thing and moved in their partner without telling me. I got a call while they were driving back from picking up the partner's things from a couple states over to ask if they could stay. It was something along the lines of, "Hey, we're on our way back from the States." I told my partner to come move in with us and we grabbed all their things. We're almost back. It's okay if they move in, right? And for those who worried about the kids, I made sure there were plenty of people around who could check up on them and keep them happy and healthy when I left. It was a couple months after his wife left him that he started talking to this girl. There was a situation where he was already leaving the job he was at. There was no reversing the situation. And he was moving back to his hometown to be closer to his parents. His wife was supposed to go with the kids first, but that wasn't happening obviously, so the kids stayed with his parents while he tied up loose ends. I told him I was leaving and he needed to get his stuff together, about a month before I actually left. I was going to tell him beforehand, but there were still a lot of things I had paid for that I wanted to take with me, and I knew they were things he and his girlfriend liked having around. I didn't want to deal with them ganging up on me and getting the police involved. From my last experience when the police are involved, if the person who is staying in the residence after you leave say that you're trying to steal something, it doesn't matter if your name is on the lease. It's now their home, and everything in it is theirs, unless you can prove in court that it's not. I had already lost out on a couple tens of thousands of dollars. I wasn't willing to lose that last little bit of what I had. He told me I wasn't in a place financially to move out anyways, and I should just get with the program. Not a a-hole for so many reasons, but this part just really seals the deal on him being a gaping a-hole. You moved states at great financial risk to help him, and he turned around and tried to financially abuse you for it. This exactly. Get with a program after violating literally your one rule? Get the hell out of here. Not the a-hole. I swear this sounds like Buddy's wife left him because he was straying. Might a big coincidence that he moved. Found some random gal, got her all moved in before he could blink, and she took over the house. Good for you for moving out. As is pointed out in another comment, his friend went right to financial manipulation in order to bend Opie to their will. Decent chance that previous wife was in a similarly abusive situation but more vulnerable. Getting out of a horrible situation is hard. Getting out with children is harder. Priorities as a parent are not taken into account with the statement I know. Not the a-hole. He wanted to have his cake and eat it. If you start dating someone and move them in within the first month of me being there, I would leave the next day. He moved a girlfriend in. You moved out. Sounds like the deal you made was crystal clear. And sounds like Opie knew he had a habit of straying. Why else make such an oddly specific ultimatum in advance? Usually, it's suggested that you wait 6 months before introducing a new person to your kids, much less move them in. Not the a-hole, by the way. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for threatening my mom that I'll stop paying the house utilities if she won't respect my sleeping pattern? So I got hired on a remote job that pays 3 times more than my job before the lockdown. The problem, however, is my working hours are 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Because of this, I became a nocturnal person, which was never really a problem to me because my brain is more active at night. My mom, however, didn't like it. She made a rule that all of us should eat together at breakfast every Sunday, which means I have to wake up at 7 a.m. on weekend. I can't because I normally sleep around 4 or 5 a.m., and I can't force my body to sleep early. Not to mention I'm still working from Friday night up to Saturday morning. I've been telling my mom not to disturb me on Sunday, but she's always like, "No, you sleep early on Saturday so you can join us." But I can't. And no, I'm not resorting to sleeping pills or whatever. So earlier, I got annoyed with her, which prompted me to threaten that I'll stop paying the house utilities if she won't respect my sleep schedule. Due to the pandemic, my parents' business went bad, so they're barely meeting the ends. So my financial assistance is a huge help for them. Mom got mad. Dad called me selfish and ungrateful for letting me live at their house rent-free. Funny, it's because it's not even free since I'm paying a lot for the utilities. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Tell her that you'll be happy to have breakfast together as a family when you wake up at noon. You can call it brunch, or you can call it a compromise, whatever she prefers. Not day haul. They can be adults or they don't get their life subsidized by you anymore. Not day haul. If you can, move out and let them sort out the mess you leave behind. To be honest, I could. I just can't because of the COVID situation in my country. Probably once I got my vaccine. Start saving the money and doing the research. And getting everything ready. Not day haul, but come up with a compromise, like a family lunch or dinner instead of breakfast. I always eat lunch and dinner with them since lunch is technically my breakfast and dinner is my lunch. So what is the difference between that meal and every other meal? Control.
First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying no thanks when my parents told me my birthday gift is picking out a car/getting a car? So, I am 17 years old and I got my license about a year ago by now. I didn't get it because I needed or wanted to drive anywhere. We live in the middle of town. My school is a 2-minute walk, job a 5-minute walk. Most of my hobbies like the gym are within 10 minutes, and almost all my friends live within a 20-minute walking distance. I only got it because it is good to have, if that makes sense. You know, emergencies and when I move out and get a job, so need my own car. My parents have been asking me when I am buying a car all year long. They anticipated I would buy one, so I could take over duties like driving my siblings places, picking them up from school. They go to a fancy primary school 45 minutes outside of town. And do stuff like pick up food, you know the deal. Honestly, it has all just made me not want a car even more. The prospect of walking out of school and instead of doing homework, hanging with friends, going to work, etc. I get to drive 45 minutes to pick up my siblings and spend 45 minutes driving home with them screaming in my ears, and follow that up by taking them to practice. No, thank you. So, I turned 17 a month ago, and I didn't get anything apart from the promise of a big surprise from my parents. I figured they must be broke because of everything going on, so I obviously didn't make a big deal out of it. I was wrong. They had been putting money aside all year to let me pick out a car, and today they revealed it to me, and I just said, mostly out of shock, no thanks. I'd rather just get a new monitor or something. Dad absolutely lost his crap, calling me ungrateful, and Mom just seemed extremely disappointed. I get most guys my age dream about getting a car, especially a brand new one, but for me it's just not worth it at all. Getting a car is pretty worthless to me, and just means getting a crap ton of extra chores, so I'd end up having even less free time, and I already barely have any. Am I being the a-hole here? Sure feels like I am. Now for the top comments. It's a trap. Well done. You've Assassin's Creeded your way around a trap. My suggestion? First of all, be grateful that they are doing this for you. But tell them that you want to wait to get a car until college because you aren't ready yet and want to focus on school right now. Basically, defer the gift. Accept it, but defer it for later. Straight up finessing that dish. My parents gave me their old car for my 17th birthday. I was expected to drive my siblings to their activities and drive them to their friends' houses or to the movies, etc. However, I was only allowed to drive the car for my own enjoyment twice per week, and I wasn't allowed to drive the car to school. I was basically the live-in chauffeur for their kids. As an added bonus, whenever my parents were mad at me, they'd threaten to take the car away, but only for the 2 days a week I was allowed to drive it, not for the chauffeuring of my siblings. I eventually just handed my dad back the keys and told them I didn't want the car anymore as it wasn't worth it. They were quite shocked, and then they got upset when they realized I wasn't bluffing. Wow, at least my parents want to give me a new car. You get the old ruster and the crap, but yeah, I'm pretty sure the sibling chauffeur thing is but the start. Not the a-hole, but you need to talk this over with your parents. It seems like they want you to take on more chores for them, and you should discuss whether that is right or fair. They're a-holes for overreacting to your polite refusal. It's about more than just a gift for you. It means increased unwanted family contributions. I don't think there is any way I can bring it to them without it being framed like I don't appreciate them or hate my siblings or something. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not being interested in part of my ethnic background? So, I'm half Chinese and Korean and was raised solely by my mom. My parents were college sweethearts, but when my mom got pregnant, my dad's family was furious because they expected him to eventually end up with a Korean girl. Their ultimatum was to give up his girlfriend or his family, and you can probably guess who he chose. Nonetheless, I did grow up spending the occasional weekend with him,
So I wouldn't say our relationship was entirely bad. Unfortunately, my dad passed away about 2 years ago. It was unexpected and sudden. His passing took a huge toll on his family, with his mom taking it the hardest. She's been trying really hard to establish a relationship with me ever since. My dad didn't have any other children, so I guess it's understandable. I was initially okay with spending time with them, but they've been really aggressive with forcing Korean culture on me. I've been dragged to church by them a few times. My aunts have tried pressuring me into taking Korean classes. It's gotten to a point where I've started to ignore their calls, and they're now contacting my mom to try to get a hold of me. Yes, even during a damn pandemic. And the fact that they don't like the Chinese part of me doesn't help. Every compliment is backhanded. My good work ethic is because I'm Korean. My intelligence is because I'm Korean. And my dad's mom loves to talk about how pretty I am, and how I obviously get it from my dad because my features don't exist for Chinese, despite me being the literal spitting image of my mom. The only real reason why I agreed to spend time with my dad's family is because I felt obligated to. I'm not interested in Korean culture, and I don't feel Korean at all. They've reminded me countless times that it's important to learn about my heritage and whatnot. But why? I think if everyone looks far back enough, we'll all probably find a different ethnic root. That doesn't mean that it'll hold any real value for us. My ethnic background is just my ethnic background. My mom and grandparents think I should be open to it. They acknowledge that how my dad/his family treated my mom was crappy, but ultimately, my relationship with them is separate from their relationship with them. Still, at the end of the day, my mom's culture is what I grew up with and identify with. I can speak Chinese dialects. I accompany my grandparents to temples. I love Chinese food. I'm more Chinese than I ever will be Korean. I genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with not wanting to immerse myself into a culture that holds no real importance for me. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I have said it before, and I'll say it again. Your feelings can never make you an a-hole. It is your actions that can make you an a-hole. You don't seem to have done anything terribly bad, and your Korean family does seem to be quite annoying. I am going not the a-hole on this one. You are not to blame. They're pushing you away by pressuring you into doing things you don't want. I kind of think, am I the a-hole questions that are just about emotions should be pulled. Not that this person doesn't have a real issue. Their writing was very compelling, and I enjoyed reading it. But there's no conflict. As you pointed out, you can't be an a-hole for an emotion. Not the a-hole. They hated your mom's heritage from the beginning of time and are trying to have a fully Korean grandchild instead of a mixed one. If you are, just cut them off. They aren't trying to include you. They're just trying to completely change you and don't want to accept the Chinese part of you. The ironic part is that they're entirely to blame for Opie not feeling Korean. Not the a-hole. As you said, roots do not define you. You were raised by half of your ethnic heritage. The other half is just kinda there for you. If your Korean family was trying to incorporate Korean heritage with your Chinese heritage when you identify as such, not diminish one for the other, this would be a completely different story. It's strange, because I've always felt that both cultures share a lot of ideals and customs. I haven't spent nearly as much time with my dad's side as I have with my mom's, yet I can still draw many similarities in their values. It just makes it more off-putting, how they're so insistent on me having to learn about Korean culture. They apparently think I'm great, so I don't understand why it's so important to have me embrace a culture that has had no influence on how I turned out and diminish the value of the one culture that did influence my development. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's wife I'm not her kid? My, 19 female, mom died 7 years ago. My dad remarried 8 months ago. She's an alright person, but a little weird. Even before she married my dad, she was calling me and my siblings her/their kids. My siblings are younger, so I kinda get it there. But me? I have never lived with her. I live in an apartment with friends, and we have been around each other maybe 11 times since our first introduction, which was when I had already moved out. Ever since she moved in, she has asked why I don't move back closer to home, so we can be a real family. So, a few weeks ago, my dad, his wife, and my siblings paid me a visit, and while they were here, she was talking about how proud she and my dad are of their daughter, and she called me her daughter multiple times. I said nothing to her in front of people, but when someone asked about my mom, I said, oh, my stepmother, just because I wasn't going to call her my mom. But I didn't make a big deal out of it, and I was not angry. She got upset and confronted me on it back at my place. I told her I didn't really know her. I didn't like her calling me her daughter. My dad stepped in and said it was harmless, but said if I didn't like it, he understood and maybe we could figure something else out. She said I am her kid now, and she doesn't want me to feel left out. I told her I wouldn't. She said it would make me feel left out eventually. I told her I'm not some little kid, and she didn't raise me. I have a mom and dad, and I am not accepting another mother. She said it wasn't fair, that I had an issue with it because she's only trying to be a good mom to all of us. She also said my lack of calling her mom and accepting her into the motherly role has negatively impacted her bonding with my siblings. I told her I'm not home for it to influence them much. She's still upset and said I should be glad she wants me to be her kid. But I find it weird to be called someone's daughter when I hardly know them and when they did not raise me in any way. I also dislike that she introduces me as her daughter. Stepdaughter would have been fine. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're not the a-hole for having and enforcing this boundary. She isn't your mom, and frankly, it's a little weird that she's insisting on it. If it is harmless as your dad put it, why would it matter if she just called you her stepdaughter? Not the a-hole. Honestly, I think it is pretty generous of you to call her your stepmother. She is barely that. She is more like your father's wife, not the a-hole. Well, that was more to keep the peace, honestly. I call her my dad's wife otherwise, and might not use stepmom/stepmother if she decides she's going to make it a huge deal. That makes sense. That's why I thought it was already generous on your part. Haha. To be fair, she isn't doing it to be controlling. I think she genuinely wants to be a part of your life, but it isn't fair for her to attempt to force that. I do agree. It's just the way she reacted to my trying to set the boundary that has me feeling like, I'm not sure we'll get along too good if this is always going to be a thing. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help out my brother and his family when they're in need? My 28 female, brother, 33 male, and his wife, 32 female, and their kids, 9 female, 7 male, and 5 male, ended up homeless 6 weeks ago after a lot of bad luck. They're currently staying with my parents while they're working things out. Everyone expected me to help out in some way, but I have not, and I do not plan to. The reason is, last year, my brother and I had a fight. I was away on vacation. My brother was looking for something in my home. I told him it was okay to get it while I was gone. He did more than that. He stayed in my house long enough for his kids to write and draw on my wall, pull up some of my carpet, break my couch, stuff my toilet with paper, and left me with it overflowing. Broke the shelf in my closet by climbing on it, from the looks of what I saw. Snooped through my room and threw my possessions around the place, and plug out my freezer. They also pulled up some of the flowers I had in my yard. Oh, and I found some stains in places and I never figured out what they were. But some things had to be replaced. My brother and the kids were the only people in my home when I was gone. I did not do it. But my brother denied it was them, and he has refused to pay me back ever since. I felt like that was a huge betrayal of my trust and a huge sign of disrespect. He never asked to pay it back in installments. He didn't offer to help clean it up. Said no when I asked if he was going to. His wife then calls me and claims I did it to my own house and set them up with it because I don't like my niece and nephews, which is not true. I have always loved them, but their behavior in the last couple of years has been less than amazing. Not that it's their fault or anything, but I feel like after everything, I don't owe them anything. I had to pay for all repairs and replacements and new paint job. They never once offered me anything. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your brother tries to gaslight you into thinking that you caused the damage. And his kids drew on your walls and wrecked your home. Wow. And he doubles down without an apology. The nerve of your brother. I know, right? Also, if that's how they treat your house, I wouldn't want to help them and let them stay with you, or financially assist them. You already spent money on their mistakes. Don't make it a habit, and don't let them take advantage of you. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It is not your job to take care of them. Plus, it looks like they have a problem with taking responsibility for their actions. He said that he needed one thing from your house, and then lets his kids wreck your house and refuse to come clean about it. I think it's absurd how often people suggest getting police involved here, but I would have definitely said, cool, if it wasn't you all, I guess someone broke in and I'll need to call the police. Too late now though. Not the a-hole, for all the reasons you listed. It's not about the money, it's about not owning up to the damage it caused your home. They can't afford to pay you now, but I'm sure you'd appreciate a heartfelt apology. Even if they thought that they were in the right, they could have still apologized for the damage. In my opinion, the money matters. It's part of what makes the apology real. If someone apologizes, but doesn't make any effort to right their wrong, it can feel a bit hollow. Don't get me wrong, an apology is better than nothing. But sometimes people use words because words are cheap and actions are dear.